Pripyat, Ukraine, a massive disaster struck on April 26, 1986. The Chernobyl power plant had a major nuclear accident when one of the reactors blew up, causing massive destruction. But first, let's rewind and talk about it from the beginning. So the nuclear power plant was made out of 4 reactors. Reactors named RBMK-1000, each being able to produce 1,000 megawatts of electrical power and 3,200 megawatts of thermal power. The 4 reactors made 10% of Ukraine's electricity. Construction began in 1970 by workers and families around. Since 4 were made, number 1 was finished in 1977, number 2 in 1978, number 3 in 1981, and number 4 was finished in 1983. There was a 5th and 6th planned, but after the explosion, the process was stopped.
Now viewed as the worst nuclear power accident in history, this all occurred when the plant was practicing a drill to see if the emergency water cooling system would work if the power would go out, but made many mistakes during this. Although there were many mistakes that they made, they kept going with the experiment. Workers shut down many safety systems that are needed to prevent this type of accident, including the turbine system that kept the reactors cooled to safe temperatures. With the turbine system off, a highly dangerous reactor overheating, which caused it to explode. In a more detailed look at it on April 25, 1986 at 1 a.m. they began to reduce power slowly. They continue, and on April 26 at 12:28 a.m. the power goes down too far below stable level. Operators violated guidelines because of panic and couldn't gain control. 1 hour after, it stabilized at a low level and the supervisors told them to proceed with the test. This is when they fully turn off safety features. At 1:28 a.m., an unexpected power surge occurs. The operators press the emergency shutdown button, but the controls jam. A few seconds later, the explosion happens, blowing off the roof of the reactor, sending a huge fireball into the sky with dust and smoke. Radiation begins to come out. Everything begins to collapse. A fire breaks on reactor number 2. Number 1 and 3 are shut down but are planned to go back up later on. Reactor number 2 is then shut down because of the fire. With 4 destroyed and 2 permanently shut down, only 1 and 3 stayed active at the time. Eventually later on, 1 and 3 were closed for good as a deal with the EU. The sad part was that people weren't even notified till almost 2 days after the accident, causing some to die and having about 4,000 awaiting death from diseases caused by the radiation. Evacuation was just really bad and unorganized. This disaster was 400 times more than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Till today, Chernobyl still has a big amount of radiation and everything is completely destroyed and abandoned, making it look like straight from a movie. You can visit, but you can't go into most radioactive areas. To this day, thousands of people go every year to visit. You also can't stay long or you'll get all the radiation. Scientists continue to study the place and they've even seen wildlife start to appear in the most radioactive areas, like bears, moose, bison, and more. Scientists think that maybe the explosion wasn't as bad for the natural environment as we thought, and maybe it was less damaging to animals than it is to us.